Welcome to another podcast episode. So today I want to be talking about self-sabotaging, taking accountability, and also the dangers in comfortability, and like a few other things. I'll just get straight into it. Self-sabotaging is something I've kind of struggled with like throughout my teenage years. So this one's a little bit more personal to me rather than just like generic. But I feel like it's really important to cover all bases of this topic. So that's why I've picked this one for today. The thing that really reminded me to talk about this topic was, and this is going to sound silly, but I've been watching season 10 of Married at First Sight Australia, and you need to go watch it because it's just amazing, so much drama. But what's good about it is it kind of shows you, while it's like supposed to be an entertaining show, it also shows you the reality of like a male's perspective versus a female's perspective in a relationship, and then they come together as a group, and you can see how everyone's bad traits or like affection styles and personalities, like how they clash and how they don't work with other certain styles and things. And I find it really interesting. They have like experts that like grill them on their bad behavior, and it's just a bit of an eye-opener because I watch it and I think, oh my gosh, like I do some of those things. And then sometimes I watch it of a different character and I'm like, oh my gosh, people have done that to me before, not letting that happen again. And it kind of gives you that bird's eye view perspective in a show like that. And what was interesting is there's like a few characters in the show that like you're literally watching people self-sabotaging themselves like live on TV. You're watching people gaslight, you're watching all these things happen in front of your eyes, and it just makes you more aware of it when you compare it to your life. And someone there was self-sabotaging a lot, and it was so heartbreaking to see because it was like she had this perfect opportunity and she was like basically not believing that she deserved it and causing problems and finding problems. And it's really sad watching someone else do that and watching my friends do it. And then when I take a step back and I think, I do this all the time as well, it makes me want to change it. Self-sabotaging is something I've always struggled with. I think relationships, friendships, even in myself, just constantly finding, or I used to constantly find like the bad parts of it. Like, this is too good to be true. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't deserve this. Like, there's a catch. And like, I would constantly like overthink like a friend's reaction and tone to something, and like so many different things that I definitely feel like accountability is the first thing I want to talk about here, because before you can go out and like analyze your self-sabotaging more, you have to start with you and take a bit of accountability and think like if there was situations that you kind of ruined yourself or, you know, went a bit too far, it's really important to be self-aware of it and to say, actually, maybe, yeah, I didn't need to react that intense, that emotional, maybe I didn't need to bring up those certain topics, and understand that like you do deserve friendship, you do deserve self-love, you are a great person, you deserve real love, you deserve all these amazing things that are happening for you. So don't discredit them and don't think you don't deserve them or like dig too deep, because you're going to ruin the blessing, you're going to ruin whatever has been placed right in front of you. So understanding that, you know, when you have pushed people away or reacted maybe a bit quick and a bit rash, like it's okay to take a step back and go, okay, that was definitely my fault, like I can work on that and know that for next time. And that's something I've definitely been working on over the last few months, is realizing that I am worthy of all these things, these great things. So why am I gonna, you know, create a bad rep on myself by pushing it all away and acting out when it's right in front of me on a platter? Like, let me just take it and enjoy it. Self-sabotaging doesn't just come from nowhere. It either comes from like a bad past relationship or friendship, it comes from trauma growing up, it comes from low self-esteem, or it just comes from generic triggers. And for me, I feel like all of my self-sabotaging came from triggers. As important as it is to take accountability when, you know, your triggers are kind of unjustifiable, the other person or friendship group, whoever, hasn't really done anything to cause that type of reaction, it's good to take accountability. Or maybe when they have upset you and you have reacted but you've maybe gone a bit too far, it's okay to take accountability for that. But make sure that you're not kind of being naive and, you know, getting walked all over. It's also important that you hold other people accountable as well. I think the biggest thing I've learned is, in therapy and everything, is us humans are all about programming. It comes with traumas and everything. If you were brought up one certain way to believe in one type of mindset, values, triggers, you're gonna most likely believe in that and be that type of person. And you've basically got to unwind all that programming that you've just learned. So with self-sabotaging and like anxiety, it's 100% programming. if something triggers you and you get upset and then you're met with sort of reassurance and apology and, accountability on whatever's triggered you, you will then feel understood, you'll feel fine, you'll relax, and you shouldn't really be stressed the next time it happens because you understand that it was a mistake or whatever, miscommunication, whatever's happened. But where the programming comes in is when these triggers constantly occur, and no matter how much you react, this trigger, this person, whoever, is going to keep triggering you. And you'll obviously naturally get upset, and if you aren't met with sort of reassurance, you're going to start to believe what your self-sabotaging thoughts are telling you. So you'll program in your mind that every time this trigger happens, you're right. And then you're going to react even bigger and bolder and bring up the issue more and more and more. Where the reprogramming goes wrong is when that person then makes you feel like you're the problem. Instead of meeting you with, sympathy, empathy and reassurance, it's more like, well, you're causing issues now. You've self-sabotaged how many times? But the issue is the source, is that if the trigger and the source of these issues had stopped, had gone away, then you wouldn't be reacting this way. It's a whole cycle, and it's all about programming. So how to stop it is to surround yourself, as I always talk about, in a safe environment with safe people that make you feel safe, don't make you feel anxious. And if you ever do feel anxious or triggered, they can meet you with understanding, empathy, help calm you down, take accountability if they've done something wrong, and then to breathe, and that it's not going to happen again. And if it does, well, you can speak about it in a normal manner. You don't need to be triggered this time. So always surround yourself with people that have empathy, that can see it from your side of view, that can see where it maybe looked bad, where it triggered you, etc. Where you'll get stuck in a self-sabotaging loop is when you're with someone that isn't that self-aware and isn't as empathetic, and kind of feeds into your anxiety. They trigger you, and every time you bring up your reaction, you're met with blame and like you're the problem and get over it, it's not that bad, da-da-da-da. So then you're literally programming your mind to worry more, because next time it's 10 times worse, the time after that is 10 times worse, until the point where then you look like the bad guy. And then your reactions will probably get worse to the point where you probably are in the wrong, because your reactions are just crazy now. So now both of these people are in the wrong, and it clashes. So as important as it is to take a step back and realise when you've gone too far, or when you're bringing up problems and there wasn't a trigger, when there is a trigger, identify that, communicate about that, and see what type of response you get. And if the response is empathetic and understanding, then you're fine and you're safe. And if it continues to you continue to self-sabotage, that's probably your own issues. But if you're met with blame or defense or anger, then then you need to understand that you probably need to get out of that environment and away from those people, because before you know it, your brain will be programmed as quick as that into this self-sabotaging cycle, where in the end you'll start to blame yourself. And I've definitely done this. Sort of in the last year, I literally had convinced myself that I had the worst anxiety, I was horrible, I was constantly finding problems, what is wrong with me? But in reality, I was stuck in this self-sabotaging loop where I just did not feel safe or reassured, and I just trigger was always there and it never went away, so the reactions would constantly come back up, and then I was just both as bad as each other. So, and that can become very toxic, and it's okay to accept that, and it's okay to say, like, you know what, yes, I wasn't 100%, my reactions weren't healthy, they weren't the nicest, but they all came from a source, and that source never went away and never helped you heal. So it's not entirely your fault. And then that's where forgiveness comes into. Yes, take accountability, yes, hold other people accountable, but self-sabotaging is horrible, because when you do cause problems and bring up things, it all comes from a place of just wanting to be loved and just wanting to be reassured and feel really secure. It's never a malicious thing. So forgive yourself, understand that you are a kind person just looking for love, and understand that you wouldn't feel this way if you had surrounded yourself in a safe environment. Obviously, give and take, if you have sort of low self-esteem or you have bad trauma, it's a little bit more difficult. But if you're a generic person that's pretty much quite likes themselves, and you're finding yourself constantly like self-sabotaging, you've got to look at the external sources and just forgive yourself and understand that maybe you were just paired with people that just didn't let you heal, didn't make you feel safe. and you've been like, and it's horrible when you're kind of told and told again that, you know, your reactions are wrong, you're got anxiety, you're the problem, you'll believe that. You'll walk away and think I'm the problem, where in reality is if the triggers and the sources were sorted from the get-go, you would probably have nothing to bring up. So just forgive yourself for knowing that that's not who you are, that's not who you're always going to be. You will heal, you just need to be placed in the right safe environment where there is no triggers. You need to be placed with people that are empathetic and can calm you down, reassure you. And it is so important that you do build that sort of small circle and that safe system around you where you do feel safe and that you don't feel like you're going crazy. And eventually you'll be unprogramming that anxious mind and this self-sabotaging mind, and you'll finally get to a place in life where you think, no, I do deserve love. I do deserve these nice things that are happening to me. I'm not going to second doubt all these great opportunities I'm getting. I deserve them. And you won't self-sabotage again because there's no one acting a bit dodgy. There's no one acting a bit snaky or making you feel like something's going wrong behind the scenes. Everything is just good. The best thing I've learned when you are trying to heal from years of being programmed to be anxious and self-sabotaging, when you're trying to get out of it, the best thing I've learned is to voice record and journal, write down in your notes, film yourself, whatever it is. When something's on your mind and you're overthinking it, overanalyzing it, you're not really sure how you feel about a certain reaction or situation, talk it out loud without telling anyone, because majority of the time you know it's not a real issue, it's your brain convincing you it is. I always have this rule of the 72-hour thing. If it doesn't bother me in 72 hours, it's not worth bringing up. That's how I go. And when something happens and I think, oh, that triggers me, that makes me feel anxious, I'm pissed off, I now voice record it, video it, really process it, and just think, okay, is this just my brain being a bit like, oh, or is this like, no, they've triggered me, they've caused a problem, I need to bring this up. So writing this down, journaling has saved me so many arguments, you know, it's prevented me from feeling bad about bringing up issues or feeling like I'm always bringing up an issue. So now I just write it down, because some things are better left unsaid. But do not bottle it up. If there is something that has triggered you and you know needs speaking about, then you say it and you nip it in the bud, because the right people will appreciate that and will say, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry I upset you, let me work on that. And if not, then what I said earlier, they're not letting you heal, don't need to be in your environment. But writing it down has honestly helped me to unprogram that mind. I started writing it down, and over time you kind of get bored of writing down all these anxious thoughts, and you just think it's just not worth even thinking about them anymore. And eventually you're programming your mind to just get rid of it and start looking at the good. Another thing that's really helped me with sort of self-sabotage and overthinking anxiety is being in the present. This is so important. The past is the past, can't really change that. There is no point stressing about the future, because no matter what you plan now or try and control, everything's out of your control and it's all up to God, the universe, whoever. So letting go and appreciating what you have when you have it is key. You know, just take one hurdle at a time. If today you've got people around you that are fun and you feel safe and you're having a good time, just think about that. There is no need to overanalyze someone's character or what's going on behind the scenes. Just enjoy it, because I'm telling you, like, everything happens for a reason. There are certain lessons you are going to have to learn, regardless how much you try and avoid them. There's going to be great lessons, there's going to be bad things too, and you can't control when and how those things come in and out of your life. So you might as well just enjoy what you've got in front of you, and then if that bad thing happens, well, it was going to happen regardless. So just learn from it and really experience this human experience. Take away the anxiety, just be present with it, enjoy it. You'll have a better time, because even when like something, you know, unexpected happens, well, it's going to teach you something, level you up, and guaranteed you'll feel better than if you stay in your box, feel really prepared, and like have a shield where you're not letting anything bad happen to you. You won't feel the same satisfaction as when you've overcome a massive hurdle that you weren't expecting. I've been through both sides of it now, and I can tell you I would much rather just be hit with a plot twist and be sad for a bit and then learn, what did I learn from that? But constantly trying to overthink a situation just ruins the fun of it, and then you always regret it after because you didn't experience that experience to the fullest. So the biggest thing about that is live in the present, and then when a bad thing does happen, then you deal with it in the present and in that moment. I think I always talk about some people are in your, or some things are in your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime, whatever. Someone might have come in and not let you heal and caused all this self-sabotage and anxiety. Yes, 100%. And yes, you may regret that and wish you'd never gone through it, but it is now allowing you to be self-aware and understand that that happens when you're in that type of environment. So now what are you going to do to heal from that? How are you going to be in a different environment? You don't know. So try, take every lesson and everything that comes in and out of your life as a blessing, a bonus. Okay, I think the most important thing to remember is that you do deserve love and you do deserve peace. The only way you're going to find peace is by not looking into the future too far, not looking into the past, just enjoying what you have right now. You'll only find peace by surrounding yourself in a safe environment with safe, empathetic people. I feel like people, if you are going through a time of anxiety, self-sabotaging, and you need that reassurance, stay away from emotionally unavailable people. They will heal on their own accord. They will grow into the person they need to be on their own accord. But a lot of the time, that doesn't match with you, especially in a time of need and reassurance and wanting love. It doesn't always work. You'll end up clashing. And I think the most important thing to remember is get rid of comfortability. Just because you are so comfortable in a certain job with a certain person does not mean it is right for you. If it is causing you to self-sabotage, it's causing you anxiety, constantly triggering you, and not changing the trigger, even though you may have communicated it, if they frankly do not understand you on an emotional level, they're not helping you to heal, and that's not a safe environment. And a lot of people think safe environment, well, I'm not in danger, but mentally you are. Mentally you don't realise how quick and how deep programming can become and how much it can change you as a person, can make you doubt your own character, it can make you feel like a horrible person, and in reality you are just in the wrong environment and not surrounded by the right support that you need. And the most important thing is that you find a safe environment, you find self-love, you realise that you do deserve good things, appreciate them when they're there, and then when they go, you can deal with it. When there is an issue, you bring it up, you communicate that, and see what type of reaction you're met with on a continual basis. Are they helping you to heal, or are they blaming you and making you feel worse? Are you starting to blame yourself? But then in contrast to that, are you taking accountability when you do go too far? When you do cause problems and there is no trigger? Are you holding on to the past? Are you just, doing harm to the other person now? You need to take accountability when you've taken it too far, but make sure you really analyse what is triggering you, where is the source, how often is this triggering you, is it the same pattern? Because then you can forgive yourself and realise, actually, it's not so much me, it's maybe just the environment I'm in. Let me get out of that and see what type of person I am then. And most of the time you'll realise you don't have anxiety anymore, you're not self-sabotaging, and you're way more peaceful, and you do enjoy things when you're given to them. But you won't get to that place without going through maybe some hardships and maybe being placed in a few bad environments first, and then you'll get given a safe one. It's all about the human experience. Don't try and avoid anything, but just have a backbone and know and really be aware. I don't want anyone to be naive and just think like, oh, well, I'm comfortable here, like maybe I'm the problem, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. No, make it clear. Take your accountability, be self-aware, go to therapy, understand yourself first. Then you can look at everyone else and think, actually, I'm okay, I feel good about myself, it's them. Self-sabotaging is horrible, and I think it's really misunderstood. It always looks like people are just bringing up problems. Majority of the time it's a trigger, or they're looking for some type of validation or reassurance. And if you can't get that from a certain group or certain person and you need it to heal, then you need to go find a better environment that can offer you that. But also, do not seek validation off other people. Do not put pressure on, someone to fill up that hole of trauma that you've got. You need to make sure you have some sort of self-love. You need to make sure you've done your own healing therapy. You feel good about yourself. You know what you want. So now everything else is just a bonus. But what would you rather have? A bonus that is safe and understanding, or a bonus that is defensive and blaming you and making you question yourself? And then that ruins all this healing that you've just done. So make sure that you get yourself to a place of like strength and healing. You know exactly, your bad faults, your good faults. You're very aware of what triggers you and when, and then look at everything else and just make sure you give yourself a safe environment where you feel peaceful and happy. Don't cling on to comfortability or familiarity, because it will program your mind and it will ruin all your healing and can just ruin you as a person. You will find a lot more clarity when you are out of a situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that all these other environments have been bad. It just means they haven't aligned with you and your healing and the needs that you need. A lot of people are pretty closed off, maybe emotionally unavailable, and they're dealing with their own stuff. But don't try and force some sort of friendship or relationship or something if you view emotions and each other's mindsets in a very different way, because you're just going to clash, you're not going to understand each other, and you're not going to allow each other to heal. I think it is important that it's not necessarily that either of you are bad people, it's just your traits do not align and do not match. Obviously, there is disrespect, there is some gaslighting, there is manipulation, there's all these horrible blame game things that needs to be valid, and people need to take accountability for that. But majority of the time, the biggest factor of all of that, they're just bad add-ons, is that you don't align. You just view the world in very different ways, and you need that safe place, that empathetic environment around you where you are looked after while you build yourself up and unprogram this anxious mind. And then you'll start to accept all the good things around you. And eventually you'll look back one day and realise, yeah, I don't really self-sabotage anymore. I just enjoy my life. And that's when you know you've healed. I feel like I've rambled quite a lot there, but I just really thought it was important to get both sides of self-sabotaging. It is important you take accountability and realising that a lot of the times our reactions aren't nice, and sometimes are unnecessary. But I also feel like I've done a lot of work of understanding the source and where it comes from, and the repetition. I've done a lot of therapy about the programming I spoke about. The repetition of something happening over and over again can cause big damage. So unwinding all of that, being aware of that happening, removing yourself from situations where you can see that repetition is happening, because you need to protect yourself at the end of the day and make sure that you are clear and not clouded. You know exactly what's happening to you and your mental health. Hopefully some of that made sense, but I'm going to end it here, so I'll see you in another episode.